The assembled species of the Galactic Council had 1,000 words for pity, and they used every single one on the humans. They called us the blind ones because our eyes couldn't see the dance of infrared light that painted their universe. They laughed at what they called our monochrome existence, right up until the moment we showed them what it truly meant to see Dot in the massive, shimmering chamber of the Galactic Council. Humanity was basically a cosmic afterthought. The room itself was a monument to alien senses. The walls weren't lit in a way a human would understand. They glowed with shifting patterns of heat, broadcasting the day's agenda in a language of thermal energy. For 90% of the species there, reading these heat patterns was as easy as reading a book. Theirs was a universe seen in wavelengths of warmth and radiation, where the main sense wasn't sight, as we knew it, but thermal perception. The big players, like the crystalline Vex and the fluid like Xylosians, came from worlds orbiting dim red dwarf stars, where seeing heat was the only way to stay alive. To the Vex, a person wasn't a shape made of reflected light, but a unique signature of heat, an honest, undeniable display of life. The Xylosians navigated by sensing faint infrared trails, ghosts of warmth left behind by everything that moved. Their philosophy was simple: infrared was reality. It was the glow of a star, the heat of a planet's core, the warmth of a body, the cold of space. Everything else, that tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum we called visible light, they considered just surface noise. It was a chaotic splash of photons, an illusion distracting from the truth of energy, and so they pitted us. Our ambassador sat in a special chair that radiated a constant, soothing warmth, like a comfort blanket for a child. They called us the blind ones, a primitive race whose eyes were deaf to the universe's true song. We were, in their view, biologically handicapped. All this was dutifully noted in the Treaty of Apex, the agreement that had given humanity probationary status in the first place. Now, it was time for the Centennial Reviewer hearing to decide if we were worthy of graduating from our probationary status, or if we'd remain the galactic equivalent of kids at the adults' table. The very air in the chamber, a tapestry of infrared signals, was thick with condescension. It was shaping up to be a very polite and very crushing dismissal of our entire species. Ambassador Eva Rostova sat so still, the council mistook it for resignation. Around her was a swirling ballet of thermal condescension. The vexed delegates radiated polite amusement. The Xylosians pulsed with patronizing pity. In our first century, we hadn't really impressed them. Our tech was derivative, our philosophy quaint. We were, by all their metrics, unremarkable. High Councillor Vorlag of the Vex opened the review. His crystalline form shimmered with waves of authority. He moved to the center of the chamber, his voice echoing not just in sound, but in modulated waves of heat that every delegate, except one, could feel as a speech. We gather today, Vorlag began, his thermal projection washing over the assembly, to assess our younger siblings, the humans, a species of admirable persistence, to be sure. They have navigated the void, learned our languages, and attempted to grasp galactic physics. For this, we commend them. He paused, letting a gentle wave of patronizing warmth settle. But the core question has always been one of perception. The truth of the galaxy is written in the language of energy. It is written in heat, in the glorious spectrum of infrared. With a gesture, a vast projection filled the space above them. It was a stunning image of a nebula, a churning, glorious cloud of incandescent heat. Bright, hot, young stars burned like furnaces, while cooler gas flowed in rivers of deep, glowing crimson. Behold! Vorlag's voice and heat rose. The Anchor Nebula, not as a flat smear of reflected light, but as it truly is, a living engine of creation. We Vex see the heart of its birthing stars. Our Xylosian friends trace its ancient energy currents. This is true sight. A beauty and complexity that, through no fault of their own, our human friends are utterly blind to. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Vorlag then turned the full force of his pity on Ambassador Rostova. They see this majestic truth as a few faint pinpricks in a black void. Their world is muted, a shadow play. They live in a monochrome existence, unaware of the living universe that dances just beyond their limited senses. We pity them. We do not mock their blindness, but we cannot grant full status to a species that cannot even see the room they are standing in. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was the gentle, sympathetic chuckle of the enlightened, indulging the ignorance of a child. They were just stating what, to them, was an unchangeable fact. Humanity was blind, and throughout it all, Ambassador Rostova was silent. She didn't even look at the dazzling infrared display. She just waited for the laughter to die down. She waited for her turn. When the last ripple of amused pity faded, a heavy silence fell. All eyes and thermal sensors turned to the human enclave. Ambassador Eva Rostova rose and walked to the center of the floor. To them, she was a void, a blank spot in their vibrant world. High Council of Orlag is correct, she began, her voice calm and clear. Humanity cannot see the universe as you do. We can't see the heat of a star's heart or the warmth of a passing ship. By your definition, we are indeed blind. The delegates shifted, their thermal signatures broadcasting smug certainty. But you've made a fundamental error, Rostova continued, her tone gaining a steely edge. You assume that because we are blind to your reality, we are blind to reality itself. You see, the universe is fire. We, on the other hand, evolved to see its skin, its texture, its composition. We see the light. It chooses not to absorb. And in that reflected light is a universe of information you've never dreamed of. You have shown us your truth. Now, allow me to show you ours. With a quiet command, she initiated a broadcast. The space that held the nebula went dark. And then it was filled with a single, static image. It was called the Magnificat. At first, the delegates were just confused. It was a swirl of intricate, fractal patterns. Their sensors picked up the photons. It was light, just as they'd expected, but something was terribly wrong. Their world of infrared was all about smooth gradients. Heat bloomed and faded. Energy flowed. This was different. This was a world of hard, distinct, absolute edges. The image was a tapestry woven from millions of distinct, discernible hues, 10 million of them. A shade of blue that was mathematically different from the pixel next to it. A gradient of green that contained more distinct steps of color than a Silosian would perceive in an entire forest. The human brain, with its 3 types of cone cells and the massive processing power of the visual cortex, evolved to perform a miracle every second. It takes the overlapping signals from just 3 simple inputs and constructs a reality so complex, so dense with information, that to the uninitiated, it was an attack. The vexed delegates were the first to break. Their minds, built for the pure logic of energy flow, tried to find a pattern, a heat source, a thermal meaning. But there was none. It was a silent, screaming cascade of differentiated data. One by one, they stumbled back, their bodies radiating sharp, panicked bursts of heat, the thermal equivalent of a scream. High Council of Orlag stood his ground the longest, his multifaceted eyes wide. He could register the photons, but his brain couldn't process the overwhelming complexity. It was like listening to 10 million different songs at once. The subtle distinction between a crimson and a scarlet, something a human child could see, was an informational paradox that was shattering his mind. He made a choking sound and collapsed to his knees. The laughter was long dead. The pity had vanished. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, for the first time, there was only a stunned, horrified silence. The blind ones had just shown them what it meant to see. The broadcast of the Magnificat ended. The chamber went dark, then returned to its familiar, shimmering glow. But the atmosphere was changed forever. The silence was no longer one of superiority, but of deep, unnerving shock. Some delegates were shielding their optical senses. As if the memory of the image was physically painful, Ambassador Rostova stood in the quiet center of the storm. What you just witnessed, she explained. Her voice, echoing in the stillness, was a glimpse into the perceptual reality of a human. It was not a weapon. It was art, a mathematical formula translated into color, designed to showcase our biology. She began to pace. Our eyes are simple, really. We have just 3 types of photoreceptor cone cells, one for short wavelengths, which we see as blue, one for medium, for green, and one for long, for red. It's a system not even unique on our own planet. Many creatures on Earth have for cones, seeing into the ultraviolet spectrum. We cannot. But the magic isn't in the number of receptors. It's in the processing. She gestured to her head. Our brains take the overlapping signals from those 3 simple inputs and perform a constant, staggering feat of computation. That processing allows a fully realized human visual system to differentiate up to 10 million unique shades of color. She looked directly at the kneeling form of High Council of Orlag. You see the fire of the star, Rostova said, her voice softening. We see the billion shades of the light it casts upon a single leaf. Both are true sight. Neither is complete. You spent a century pitying us for what we cannot see. We've spent it marveling at a universe you were completely unaware of. Her words weren't an accusation. They were a statement of fact. She hadn't come to prove humanity's superiority. She had come to hold up a mirror. Blindness, she had shown them, wasn't the absence of a sense, but the arrogance of assuming your own perception was the only one that mattered, the Centennial Review concluded, not with a vote, but with a quiet, unanimous consensus. Humanity's probationary status wasn't just revoked. It was erased from the record, an embarrassing reminder of galactic short-sightedness. The galaxy changed. The Vex, masters of energy, turned their intellects to building processes that could replicate what a human brain did so effortlessly. They failed, for a time, finding that the chaotic, overlapping nature of color perception wasn't something you could easily engineer. It had to be evolved. A new phrase entered the galactic lexicon, human-sighted. It came to mean seeing something with unexpected and profound depth, finding complexity in the mundane. To be human-sighted became the highest compliment a scientist or artist could receive. Ambassador Eva Rostova became a legend. The Magnificat was stored in the Great Galactic Archive, locked behind security protocols, deemed too potent for the unprepared mind. It served as a monument, a stark and beautiful warning against the peril of sensory arrogance. Humanity, once the pitted, found our place. We didn't become conquerors. We became artists and cartographers of a different kind of reality. Other species could map the stars, but we could map the infinite shades of a single flower petal. They could chart the flow of cosmic energy, but we could capture the fleeting emotion in a painted portrait. We became the keepers of the galaxy's most stunning treasure, a reality of 10 million colors. If you enjoyed this story of humanity revealing its hidden strengths, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more tales of our unexpected power. Share this with anyone who loves a good underdog story, and let us know in the comments what other human traits you think the galaxy would underestimate. The galaxy learned a valuable lesson that day. They had judged reality by a single, narrow metric, the heat of the cosmos. But reality isn't a single note. It's a symphony of overlapping truths. And humanity, the species they once pitted for its blindness, turned out to be one of the few who could hear the full harmony. They thought we lived in a muted, shadowed world, never realizing that we carried the entire rainbow behind our eyes.